and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Tonight on Gravitas, we are asking 5 hard-hitting questions to the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as he makes a big admission during a Canadian public inquiry into alleged foreign interference, saying that Canada had no hard evidentiary proof to substantiate the shocking allegations linking Indian government agents to the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. We are asking those questions to the Canadian leader shortly. That's coming up in our top story tonight. We also tell you why these questions deserve to be answered. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. What is Israel's secret plan to strike Iran? What is the situation looking like in West Asia as tensions continue to spiral up? We tell you more about what's happening behind the scenes. The University of Oxford has released the final list of candidates for the prestigious position of the Chancellor. And former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan is not among the finalists. We get you the complete story and tell you all that you need to know. All this and more coming up. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He has made a big admission during a Canadian public inquiry into alleged foreign interference. Justin Trudeau said Canada had no hard evidentiary proof to substantiate the shocking allegations linking Indian government agents to the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar last year. Let that sink in for a moment. No hard evidence, only intelligence. So tonight we are asking the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tough questions that deserve to be answered. Question 1. Why did Justin Trudeau rush to accuse India without presenting any solid proof? Question number 2. Is Trudeau using this India narrative to cover up his own domestic failures and protect his political position? Question 3. Why has Trudeau failed to crack down on extremism in Canada, allowing it to flourish under his watch? Question 4. What was Trudeau's motive in taking swift action against India without concrete evidence to back it up? And question 5, has Trudeau recklessly jeopardized Canada's relationship with India purely for political gain and without a clear strategy? You see, India has been saying for over a year that it had no role in Hardeep Singh Nijjar's death, yet Trudeau chose to accuse India. How can the Prime Minister of a country make such a reckless claim, is the question, and risk damaging relations with the world's largest democracy? Reports, not just in India, but even in Canadian media, state that Justin Trudeau's admission of lacking concrete proof against India is nothing short of embarrassing. Let's just go back to the first of the 5 questions that we have for the Canadian Prime Minister. Why did Trudeau rush to accuse India without presenting any solid proof. Was this entire fiasco a political move, one that has now badly backfired? What does Trudeau's attempt to turn back on his accusations during a public inquiry tell us? As per reports during the inquiry, Trudeau also spoke of having intelligence against India rather than evidence. But this is an elementary fact. Intelligence is not evidence. And in Trudeau's context, intelligence alone should never be enough, especially to justify hurling such serious accusations at a sovereign nation. Our second question, is Trudeau using this India narrative to cover up his own domestic failures and protect his political position? According to reports, Trudeau is facing a steep decline in popularity both within his party and among Canadians, so much so that his political survival is at stake. In fact, a poll conducted by Angus Reid, a Canadian not-for-profit organization, reportedly shows that Trudeau's disapproval rating has jumped from 39% last year to 65% now, a whopping jump. Simultaneously, his approval rating has dropped from 51% in 2023 to 30% this year. And like we told you earlier this week, reports say that at least 20 Liberal Party MPs, the party Trudeau heads, have signed a document calling for his resignation, fearing that under his leadership, the party could face an electoral wipe out. Reports further stating that this is not just about Nijjar, it's about securing votes. Canada, after all, is home to a sizable Sikh population, the fourth largest ethnic community there in the country. Some members of this community reportedly support the Khalistani movement. Is Trudeau appearing to be courting these key electoral demographics? Or is he just shifting the national conversation, or trying to do that? Shifting it from his domestic failures and trying to deflect attention. Going back to our third question, why has Trudeau failed to crack down on extremism in Canada, allowing it to flourish under his watch? This question has come up time and again because of what we see happening in Canada. Let's also tell you at this point, as per reports, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, alleged that agents, quote unquote, of the Indian government were collaborating with the Lawrence Bishnoi gang to spread terror on Canadian soil. Now, let's just get the facts straight here. Bishnoi is currently lodged in the Sabarmati Central Jail in Ahmedabad. In fact, the Ministry of External Affairs said on Thursday that India had shared requests with Canada for the arrest of members of the Lawrence Bishnoi gang, but Canada did not act on New Delhi's core concerns. Basically, instead of engaging with India as a partner and addressing legitimate concerns, Trudeau has conveniently chosen to escalate tensions, it seems, all while failing to provide concrete evidence. India's Ministry of External Affairs reiterated that Canada had presented no evidence whatsoever to support the serious accusations and called Trudeau's behavior cavalier. Let's just take you back to our fourth question for the Canadian Prime Minister. What was Trudeau's motive behind taking swift action against India without concrete evidence to back it up? Let's just get you context here. As per reports, at a news conference in Ottawa on Monday, Trudeau claimed that evidence showed that Indian government agents had engaged in activities that threatened public safety in Canada, including clandestine information gathering techniques, coercive behavior targeting South Asian Canadians, and involvement in over a dozen threatening and violent acts, including murder, quote unquote. In fact, he added that the evidence brought forth by the police could not be ignored. But where is this so-called evidence? At the very first opportunity to put forward this argument, Trudeau said he had intelligence, not any hard evidence against India. On Monday, India received a diplomatic communication from Canada suggesting that the Indian High Commissioner and other diplomats were persons of interest in a matter related to an investigation. Nijjar was not mentioned, but the reference was obvious. But so far, Trudeau has not provided any proof. So why act so swiftly without having any basis? And that led to our fifth and final question. Has Trudeau recklessly jeopardized Canada's relationship with India purely for political gain and without a clear strategy? You see, India is not just any country. It's a rising global power with a rapidly growing economy, a thriving democracy, and significant influence on the global stage. As per reports, Trudeau's actions risk alienating this essential partner. India has already made it clear that it will not tolerate baseless allegations, and the damage to relations between the two countries could be long-lasting. What was the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's end game here? Was he trying to divert attention from internal political issues? Was this just a desperate attempt to shore up his image at home, while in a way sacrificing Canada's international standing? The fact remains, Trudeau has led his country into a diplomatic disaster. His claims of foreign interference without hard evidence ended up straining relations with India, a nation that could play a crucial role in Canada's future. Trudeau may have just acted recklessly with little regard for the long-term consequences. Canada deserves better. So does India and the rest of the world. Isn't it time Justin Trudeau answers these tough questions with a straight face? On to breaking developments that have been coming in from West Asia more than 3 hours since the speculation sparked over the fate of Yahya Sinwar. There is no word from Hamas on the status of its leader. In fact, the Israeli cabinet, on the other hand, has been told that Sinwar has been most likely killed. The Israeli defense minister tweeted, and I'm quoting here, "We will reach every terrorist and eliminate them." The Israeli military is investigating if one of the 3 individuals killed by the Israeli defense forces in Gaza is the Hamas leader, Yahya Sinwar, known as the mastermind behind the October 7, 2023 attack on Israel. Sinwar has long been the prime target for Israeli forces in Gaza. If confirmed, his death will represent a significant victory for Israel and a major blow for Hamas. Reports say the IDF troops fired on a group of armed fighters on the ground floor of a building. Upon entering, they found one of the dead men bore a striking resemblance to Sinwar. Speculation abound around Sinwar's death quickly spread online. Israeli military officials saying they are still working to confirm the identity of the body through DNA and fingerprint evidence. The IDF also clarified that no hostages were present in the area. Israeli media reporting that the incident in question took place on Wednesday and that the IDF troops operating in the area did not know that Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar was there. The troops spotted several fighters enter a building and a strike was ordered against it, which collapsed the structure. Only after Israeli soldiers arrived to inspect the damage did they realize that one of the killed strongly resembled Sinwar. In fact, earlier it was reported that Sinwar is using hostages as human shields, and there have been quite a few times when the IDF came close to locating Sinwar, but before they could reach there, the Hamas leader had changed his position, reportedly. Sinwar's possible death follows months of high-profile assassinations of key figures linked to Hamas and other groups. As one of Israel's most wanted targets, Sinwar is believed to have been hiding in the extensive network of tunnels that Hamas has built beneath Gaza. His elimination will bolster the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's position and validate the IDF's targeted operations against Hamas leadership. Sinwar, remember, became the Iran-backed group's new leader after the killing of its former political chief, Ismail Haniyeh, in July. Hamas and Iran blame Israel for Haniyeh's killing, but Israel has not commented on this. With Hamas hugely weakened more than a year into the Gaza war, Sinwar's death, if confirmed, could deal a huge blow to the organization. Israel entered into a war with Hamas after the deaths of 1,206 people, mostly civilians, on October 7 last year. And since then, Israel's retaliatory campaign in Gaza has killed 42,438 people. Majority of them are civilians, according to data from the health ministry in the Hamas-run territory that the UN considers reliable. As Israel prepares a response to the October 1 missile strike by Iran, the question on everyone's minds is, how will Israel strike Iran? Well, this evening, we may have some hints. You see, Israel has been getting ready for this for years. Throughout the decades, Israel's defense sector has allocated billions in preparing for a possible attack on its arch nemesis, Iran. What does that mean? Basically, it means that Israel has created specialized weapons to achieve this objective, to achieve its objective. And how did we come to know about this? Israel's capabilities were only disclosed after weapons were sold to other countries by Israel. And here's what they tell us about Israel's capabilities. Number one, Israel can strike targets from 1,800 kilometers away. Strikes at approximately 2,000 kilometers are usually executed by American and Russian forces using cruise missiles and bombers. However, Israel has reportedly invested a considerable amount of its American aid into acquiring fighter jets that can fly 2 hours each way, including the Advanced Squadron and 4 F-16 Sufa squadrons. Lockheed Martin has created conformal fuel tanks specifically for these aircraft, increasing their range without significantly impacting aerodynamics or radar visibility. Reports also suggesting that Israel has engineered detachable fuel tanks for F-35 jets, allowing them to reach targets in Iran with stealth. Number two, Israel possesses long-range attack missiles. During the late 2000s, Israel's defense industries introduced 2 long-range attack missiles fired from fighter aircraft. While specifics like their exact range are not clear, it is known that they can strike targets hundreds of kilometers away, enabling attacks from a distance beyond the reach of the Iranian defense systems. These missiles move at supersonic speed, minimizing enemy response time and making interception more difficult. And as a result, the likelihood of these missiles successfully reaching their target increases. Number three, Israel has Rampage missile. It is a long-range, supersonic, air-to-ground, SIGLES precision strike missile. Developed by Israel Aerospace Industries and the Israeli Military Industry Systems, Rampage missiles have been developed for use in missions aimed at destroying high-quality, well-protected targets like communication and command centers, air force bases, maintenance centers, and other infrastructure. It measures 4.7 meters in length, 30.6 centimeters in diameter. It weighs 570 kgs and is equipped with a 150 kg warhead. It can be deployed from Israel's F-15, F-16, and F-35 jets. Its use of existing rocket technology renders it relatively cost-effective, with estimates of a few $100,000 per unit. Number four, Israel has ROX missile launched by Rafael in 2019. This missile combines supersonic cruising capabilities with satellite and inertial navigation, as well as optical targeting. It is basically based on Rafael's Anchor missile, which emulates the speed and the agility of the Iranian Shahab missile. The rocks can be launched from smaller F-16 aircraft and may also be compatible with the F-35. Global analysis, in fact, suggesting it has a range of 300 kilometers and can carry a 500 kg warhead, enabling it to target fortified as well as underground structures. But that's not all. Number 5, Israel also possesses a surface-to-surface missile system armed with both conventional and nuclear warheads. We are talking about the famous Jericho missiles. Jericho is Israel's original ballistic missile program, initiated in the 1960s and named after the biblical city located in the West Bank. This program was initially a collaboration with the French aerospace company Dassault, but when France withdrew in 1969, Israel continued its development. When the war broke out between Hamas and Israel last year, an Israeli legislator called for the use of doomsday weapon against Hamas, with many saying he was referring to the Jericho missile system. Jericho 1 was retired in 1990s. Jericho 2 was developed in the late 1980s, reportedly has a range of 1,500 to 3,500 kilometers. And Jericho 3 is set to be the first Israeli ICBM, that is an intercontinental ballistic missile. Tested in 2008, Jericho 3 entered service in 2011. It has an estimated launch weight of 29,000 kgs and a payload of 1,000 to 1,300 kgs. The missile can reportedly be equipped with a 750 kg nuclear warhead. Although Iran fired hundreds of ballistic missiles at Israel, the chances of Israel using Jericho missiles in a counter-strike seem remote. You see, Israel advocates a policy of ambiguity concerning its capabilities in this domain. It has frequently announced rocket propulsion tests during launches from its Palmachim base. However, the 1988 revealing of the Shavit satellite launcher verified Israel's long-range ballistic capabilities. And what's more, Israel military technology company Elbit has created bunker-busting bombs referred to as 500 MPR. These bombs are capable of penetrating up to 4 meters of concrete, hence deriving the name bunker buster. Tested on F-15 jets. These bombs have a shorter range extending to several dozen kilometers depending on the deployment method. Lastly, number 6, Israel has Popoy Turbo, another Israeli weapon known only from foreign reports. As Israel's Popoy Turbo cruise missile, it has been developed by Rafael with a range of 1,500 kilometers. It is designed for launch from Israeli Navy submarines and is capable of carrying both conventional as well as nuclear warheads. Now, this range allows Israeli submarines to strike Iran from the Red Sea or the Arabian Sea without even entering the Persian Gulf. These weapons give Israel the edge in West Asia. Israel has a formidable enemy in Iran. Just for clarity here, Iran's capabilities include 610,000 active personnel, including 350,000 in the army, 190,000 in the IRGC, 18,000 in the Navy, 37,000 in the Air Force, and 15,000 in air defense. Conscription is mandatory for Iranian men over 18, with a few exemptions. Iran has over 10,513 battle tanks, more than 6,798 artillery guns, and more than 640 armored personnel carriers. The Air Force has 312 combat-capable aircraft, and the IRGC has another 23.
برد اعلام شدهش 1450 کیلومتر است.
As far as the air defense capability is concerned, in February, Iran deployed short-range, low-altitude Azarkash, which means thunderbolt in Persian. It is an infrared detection system equipped with radar, and electro-optic systems to detect and intercept targets. It can be mounted on vehicles. That's not all. Iran also has a range of different surface-to-air missile defense systems. These include the over 42 long-range Russian-manufactured S-200s, S-300s, and local Bavar 373. Iran has at least 12 different types of medium-range and short-range ballistic missiles in its arsenal. These range from the Tondar 69, which has a range of 150 kilometers, that's 93 miles, to the Khorramshahr and Sejil, which both range up to 2,000 kilometers, that's 1,243 miles. Iran is not believed to have nuclear weapons, but it has an advanced nuclear program and operates several nuclear facilities and research centers. More trouble for ousted former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The Bangladesh International Crimes Tribunal has issued an arrest warrant against the once powerful Bangladesh leader. The arrest warrant charges Hasina with committing crimes against humanity and genocide during the protests of the anti-discrimination student movement. According to reports, during this period, from July 16 to September 9, around 875 people were killed, more than 30,000 injured. The move was months in the making, with the wheels set in motion when Hasina fled to India. The ICT case opened the case against her on the 14th of August. Hasina has been staying in India since fleeing Bangladesh. The tribunal has ordered the authorities to produce Hasina and 45 top Awami leaders before it by the 18th of November. 60 complaints were filed against the former Prime Minister and her party members with the ICT investigation agency. The investigation agency and the prosecution team have launched probes into the complaints. The government has also prepared a draft to amend the International Crimes Tribunals Act 1973.
In the post-July-August uprising in Bangladesh, today will remain a remarkable day. The court has accepted our request. We sought an arrest warrant to the International Crimes Tribunal against Sheikh Hasina, who was at the helm of those who committed massacres, killings and crimes against humanity in July-August.
So far, India has not officially given Sheikh Hasina asylum status. What Dhaka will seek to do now is extradite Hasina from India, and for this, it is expected to make a formal request to New Delhi under the India-Bangladesh extradition treaty. The Bangladesh interim government, led by Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus, has decided to scrap 8 national holidays introduced by the exiled former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's regime. These include former President Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's birth anniversary on the 17th of March and the March 7th and August 15th celebrations associated with Bangladesh's War of Liberation. This comes nearly 2 months after the National Mourning Day was cancelled in August. Our next story is about a strategically important archipelago in the Indian Ocean. A key US-UK military base there has become vulnerable to Chinese threats, and the British share some responsibility for creating the situation. Let's break it down for you. It appears that the US has pushed the UK to relinquish sovereignty over the Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean. It has been ceded to the island nation of Mauritius. Take a look at the map on your screen at this point. The red dot representing the Chagos archipelago. One notable feature of this archipelago is Diego Garcia, its largest island, which houses a critical US-UK military base. This base is strategically located near the geographic center of the Indian Ocean. According to British news reports, US officials were concerned about International Court of Justice decisions and a possible initiative in the United Nations General Assembly would cause political issues for the British. This influenced British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to cede the Chagos on the 3rd of October. And now, whatever motivated Keir Starmer to take the decision, whether to please the US president or to ease his concerns about Britain's imperial past, experts are claiming that the choice was completely misguided. You see, under the agreement, Diego Garcia will stay under British control for a minimum of 99 years. The location is important for the Americans. After all, Diego Garcia houses a crucial US military base, appropriately named the Footprint of Freedom. Amid US-China tensions in the Indo-Pacific, the Americans would hope to have full control over this island, as it will become increasingly difficult and increasingly significant for US efforts to counter China in the future. Mauritius, on the other hand, is becoming more aligned with China. China is its largest trading partner. Beijing has used its debt trap diplomacy, as it's called, to keep the island nation under its control. Experts are asserting that with the UK approving the transfer of the Chagos to Mauritius, China will gain unfettered access to deploy ships and aircraft near Diego Garcia for intelligence operations as well as military actions. Considering China's history of militarizing similar small landmasses in the South China Sea, the danger is undeniable. Remember, China has consistently engaged in extensive undersea surveys of the Indian Ocean, claimed to be for commercial reasons, but the true motive is obvious. This is a strategy for maritime dominance, and therefore, for Western experts, a Chinese presence in the Chagos directly threatens both them and India. Does the British decision inadvertently end up becoming advantage China? Well, it might look like that. Western experts, in fact, are saying that there is no real good reason for giving the island to Mauritius. The connection between the Chagos Islands and Mauritius is largely the result of colonial administration. France was the first European colonial power to govern Mauritius, managing the island from the larger archipelago after seizing control in the early 1700s. And Britain took over Mauritius following its conquest during the Napoleonic Wars and continued to operate under France's governance structure. Although there are several alternative options for the islands, neither the US nor the UK seem interested in pursuing them. Sure, the agreement will allow the right of return for Chagosians. They are the original inhabitants of the island and were expelled by the British from their homes in the 1960s and 1970s in what has been described as a crime against humanity. It is considered one of the most shameful episodes, in fact, of post-war colonialism. But even Chagosians have mixed reactions. Not all are happy about the fact that their sovereignty has been handed to Mauritius. The British are describing it as a diplomatic success, but has anyone bothered to consult the Chagosians? Experts believe that China will exploit Washington's lack of attention by pushing its interests and using debt trap diplomacy strategies. Can the wider Indian Ocean region afford that? Is the question. Will the region end up paying the price for Biden and Starmer's Chagos decision? Only time will tell. As the Russian forces continue their relentless advance in eastern Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky's ambitious victory plan faces mounting skepticism from Western allies. Our next report decoding how Ukraine's aspirations and the current military reality are poles apart.
Russian missiles Drones, fighter jets and artillery are relentlessly driving the Ukrainian troops back, conquering new territory in eastern Ukraine nearly every day. On the battlefield, Russian troops press forward, capturing key territory in eastern Ukraine. Another village in the Donetsk region has fallen, and early October saw the strategic town of Volodar being overrun after nearly 3 years of Ukrainian resistance. These losses signal the increasingly precarious position of Ukrainian forces as they struggle to hold the line with dwindling resources. Ukrainian soldiers report that the intense Russian attacks are leaving them desperate for more ammunition and reinforcements.
We are stabilizing, trying to do it, but there are a lot of them. They seem to be on some kind of drug. They're not afraid of anything. They go again, die, but there are a lot of them.
We need shells. We need Western weapons. We need Western funds to wage this war. Because if we do not end this war here, Europe will suffer in its territories, and it will be in 5, 7 or 10 years.
Away from the battlefield in Brussels, Zelensky is urging EU leaders and NATO defense chiefs to back Ukraine's new victory plan, insisting that his country must be in a position of strength before it can enter any peace talks with Russia.
The victory plan is a bridge to a successful second peace summit. You can help make this a reality. And this will protect not only Ukraine, but also Baltic states and Nordics and Poland, Balkans, other regions, other partners which are in Russian sides.
NATO may have declared that Ukraine is on an irreversible path to membership, but no immediate entry is on the table. Western leaders fear that bringing Ukraine into the alliance would be tantamount to a declaration of war on nuclear-armed Russia, even as the West does not hold back in voicing support for Kyiv.
The EU, we are on your side for as long as it takes, and for whatever it takes. We know that you need more support, more military support and more financial support. Now, this is urgent, this is needed.
As Ukraine steadily loses territory in the eastern Donbas region, the pressure is mounting on forging a viable exit strategy. Yet, Zelensky insists any peace talks must begin from a position of strength, a stance that becomes increasingly difficult to maintain in the face of the inexorable Russian advance. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Is BRICS becoming the new United Nations? The reason we are asking that question is because ahead of the BRICS summit later this month, Russia, which chairs the BRICS group this year, has called on its partners to create an alternative to the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. Why is that, you ask? Because it is mostly controlled by the West. So basically, Russia has proposed that an alternative to the IMF be established to try and counter political pressure from Western countries. Established with the intention of being a geopolitical and geo-economic counterweight to the West, BRICS is fast emerging as a formidable bloc with economic might. Here's what Russia is proposing essentially. Russia is proposing altering the mechanisms for cross-border payments among BRICS countries. This way, the members can bypass the global financial system. How will that help, you ask? It will help protect these economies from the effects of sanctions imposed by the Western countries. So what is Russia suggesting BRICS do instead? creating a network of commercial banks within BRICS countries that can enable transactions in local currencies. And this would, in a way, lessen reliance on the US dollar and other major currencies that are controlled by the global financial system. By focusing on using local currencies, Russia aims to create a more self-sufficient financial infrastructure that is resistant to sanctions. The question is what Russia is proposing. Is it possible? And to answer that, we need to first ask, what does BRICS really represent? It represents emerging market economies of the world, countries that for so long have been marginalized in a way by the West. What started out as 5 countries today represents some of the biggest decision makers of the world economy now. And the list of countries joining the bloc is also growing. Have a look at these numbers on your screen for now. According to data by the World Bank, BRICS comprises 41% of the world's population, 24% of the world's GDP, and over 16% share in world trade. These are significant numbers. And with more countries joining hands, a larger BRICS essentially has the potential to challenge the dominance of existing global institutions. The World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, these are institutions that aim to help all, but these are institutions strongly influenced by the West. A growing BRICS Plus also gives emerging markets the opportunity to align on global topics. Not only does it open up new and exciting economic opportunities for these countries, it also brings them to the decision-making table. And together, these countries can have a greater say on what happens around the world, something that for so long these countries have not been able to do. And why shouldn't they? BRICS countries have been drivers of economic growth, after all. They have come together to deliberate on important political, security and economic issues. Not just that, BRICS bloc also has for long advocated for reforms of international structures, including the United Nations. And what's more, population-wise, BRICS includes India and China, the world's 2 most populous countries. Even with demographic, political, economic differences, BRICS basically represents what can be called as unity in diversity. Now, what is it that the bloc demands? In recent years, countries from BRICS Alliance and Global South have pushed for major reforms at the United Nations. Their argument is the United Nations is overly dominated by Western countries, particularly by the West. And amid multiple conflicts around the world and the evolving global landscape, the United Nations has faced a variety of criticisms. It has been criticized for alleged inefficiency, ineffectiveness, lack of transparency, perceived biases, also its inability in a way to broker peace. And as far as the IMF is concerned, the impact of its loans has been widely debated. Critics argue that the loans enable member countries to pursue reckless domestic economic policies, knowing that if needed, the IMF will bail them out. And this safety net, in a way, delays reforms. It creates long-term dependency. That's not even all. IMF's conditions have also been widely debated. In fact, critics contend that the IMF's prescriptions provide remedies that may not help all countries. This reduces economic growth in a way, deepens and prolongs financial crises, creating hardships for the poorest people in borrowing countries. And in light of all of this, it's only fitting that Russia, as a BRICS member, proposes an alternative. With BRICS' forward-looking agenda in place, the question is, can it replace the UN's stronghold? Predictions don't always hold true. No one has a crystal ball. No one can know for sure what happens in the future. Predictions are allowed to go wrong. But what if it's a matter of life and death, quite literally? Let me tell you what we are talking about. Have a look at what this Telegraph report states. The headline saying, I'm quoting, doctors wrongly predict how long terminally ill patients will live in half of the cases, quote unquote, in half of the cases. The analysis has naturally raised a lot of concern. And this is also significant because of the timing. A new bill aiming to legalize assisted dying in Britain was introduced in Parliament on Wednesday. So the analysis has triggered concern, naturally, over the assisted dying bill. Just for context here, under new laws presented to the Commons on Wednesday by the Labour MP Kim Leadbeater, terminally ill patients will be allowed to seek medical help to end their lives. Let's tell you more. Reportedly, only patients with a set number of months left to live will qualify, with prognosis of between 6 months and a year currently being considered as potential criteria. As this report mentions, according to the analysis, doctors wrongly predict how long terminally ill patients will live in half of the cases. So what if people who have been wrongly told by doctors they only have months left to live choose to die prematurely? There is naturally a lot of concern over this possibility. It's a matter of life and death, after all. As per the Telegraph report, analysis of 16 years' worth of research obtained by the Telegraph shows that half of patients who are expected to die within 6 months to a year outlive expectations. Out of 6,495 occasions when doctors or nurses predicted a patient would die within 6 months to a year, more than half of the patients, 3,516, defied expectations and survived, quote unquote. The report says the analysis highlights weaknesses in doctors' prognosis, raising concerns from leading palliative care clinicians, quote unquote. And that's just one part of the story. The new bill in itself has sparked divided opinions. Small groups of protesters, in fact, both for and against that bill, gathered outside the Parliament on Wednesday morning. The bill grants terminally ill people in England and Wales a way to allow physicians to help them die. Although the details will not be released until later in the month, ahead of its first substantial debate and a parliamentary vote, the bill's introduction in the Parliament set off an emotional debate on an issue that basically polarizes opinion. The assisted dying bill is expected to allow mentally competent, terminally ill adults with 6 months or less left to live the right to choose to end their lives with medical health. It is the first attempt to change the law in a decade. According to a 2023 Ipsos Mori poll, legalizing assisted dying is supported by up to 2/3 of Britons. Opponents of assisted dying, meanwhile, say there is no way to change the law without endangering vulnerable people. In fact, they argue that vulnerable sick people could feel pressured into choosing it, and some worry the law could then be extended to cover other conditions. In recent years, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and some US states have legalized assisted dying under certain circumstances. It has been legal in Switzerland, in fact, since 1942, and in the Netherlands since 2002. In today's world, it seems wealth is concentrated in the hands of a very select few, an elite group of centibillionaires whose net worths exceed $100 billion each. Names like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos dominating the Bloomberg Billionaires Index that compiled this list. As per reports, the 15 centibillionaires have accumulated staggering fortunes through stock ownership in some of the world's most valuable companies, and their wealth continues to soar year after year. Reports say these titans of industries did not just inherit their wealth. Most of them are founders and CEOs of tech giants or global corporations. Elon Musk, for example, has reportedly turned Tesla and SpaceX into massive money-making machines. His fortune now sitting at $241 billion, adding $11.6 billion reportedly just this year itself. Similarly, Jeff Bezos, who built Amazon into an e-commerce juggernaut, reportedly boasts a net worth of $200 billion. As per reports, his wealth grew by $23.3 billion over the past year. But you see, it's not just the tech world fueling these vast fortunes. Bernard Arnault, the CEO of luxury goods company LVMH, has also made the index, amassing $192 billion, though his wealth reportedly dipped by $15.6 billion this year. And then there is Mark Zuckerberg, whose wealth, as per reports, has skyrocketed by $59.2 billion this year. Zuckerberg's net worth reportedly now sitting at $187 billion. Reports say, owing largely to the growth of Meta, the company he co-founded. This exclusive group of billionaires, just 15 in total, reportedly collectively holds over $2.2 trillion. Let that sink in for a moment. These individuals alone control more wealth than some of the world's largest corporations. Just to put this into context, Bank of America, Coca-Cola and Netflix giants in their own rights are reportedly all worth less than the $360 billion that these billionaires added to their fortunes this year. And the list is only growing, by the way. Reports say the Walton family, heirs to the Walmart fortune, are nearing the $100 billion club, with 3 members already worth more than $92 billion each. While these individuals basically accumulate billions, there is also a stark reality here. Most people around the world are grappling with stagnant wages and skyrocketing costs of living. According to the World Bank, 691 million people, or 8.6% of the world's population, lived in extreme poverty in 2023. And the gap between the ultra-wealthy and the rest of the world is only widening. On this day, October 17, 1979, 45 years ago, Mother Teresa was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her humanitarian endeavors. In her acceptance speech, she said, and I'm quoting, "It is not enough to be a good person. We must be people of action. Love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action